What up, Vigilantes? Wow, so I've been away from the screens for about a month, where I haven't been really following things on the news. And these past 2 days, I went back into the matrix that everyone is so, involved in. Social media, and oh my God, how depressing. How ugly, right? And then I step outside and I realize that the banana trees are still here. Everything is fine, really, for the most part. And it just really makes you beg the question as to how much these algorithms are actually helping us, benefiting us. Honestly, dude, I'm really tired of them. I'm really exhausted of the internet in general. I'm sick of it. I hope I'm not the only one that feels this way, but it's pretty nauseating. And this entire mindset of helplessness, learned helplessness, or feeling like you can't really do anything and best you can do is just prepare for the worst. I don't know, I really think that is in itself the greatest psyop. To keep you thinking that there's nothing that you can do, that there's nothing that can be done, that you're screwed either way, that you're never ever going to be prepared enough for worst case scenario. It's this constant negativity that really is at the heart of what's causing so much trouble, in my opinion, in the world. It's not really even what's happening, but it's rather the mind virus of negativity. That's where the true psyop is. And I just want to break free, guys. I want to break free. You know what's crazy? You know what's beautiful, actually, is that I actually know the way out. I've been telling you guys this forever. It's Bitcoin itself. It's Bitcoin's original design at scale. It's the fullness of Bitcoin, where right now it's doing over 1 billion transactions per second. And yet that's not something anyone is talking about unless you have the balls like me to tell you and go against the grain. It's a forbidden topic of conversation, obviously. I'm constantly told it's not good for business to ever talk about this. But you know what? Fuck it. The truth is the truth. What's up, birds? Yeah. As you guys know, I'm a big blocker, BSVer. And right now there are 3 teams training AI on chain. And there's also, we broke the record of 1 million transactions per second. And I include myself as part of that network because you know what? The truth is, guys, is that I see it as a very valuable tool. And now recently it's been proven that we can do over 1 billion transactions per second. I'm gonna leave it at that. You can do your own research on it. Verify everything that I say. By all means, prove me wrong, because that's what I like. I like to be proven wrong. You know why? Because that's how I learn. But up to this day, no one's been able to prove me wrong. So that's what's up. That's where we're at. We are in a world now where a blockchain, a Bitcoin blockchain, can do 1 billion transactions per second. Meaning that we really don't need any of the bullshit, central planning, the BS central planning makeup of the internet anymore. The internet itself has already turned the page. The problem is, guys, is that we have these technocrats that don't want to stay out of the way. They want to remain relevant, so they are forever going to tell you that they are necessary. And they're going to tell you that they're necessary. They're going to confuse a lot of things. You know what's interesting is that I keep seeing this recurring theme that things that are first thought about in BSV are co-opted and taken over by companies like Circle, Coinbase. But again, I will tell you this, and I'll tell you that, and this goes off for the entirety of crypto. Real peer-to-peer technology. I'm listening to monkeys shouting over there, howler monkeys. Real peer-to-peer technology will never, ever be able to be embraced by the central planning technocratic entities of big tech, Silicon Valley. They will never ever be able to embrace true peer-to-peer technology, which is really where we all should just rally around and live with a lot of hope, because we, in our fingertips, we have the means to create technology that cannot be outcompeted by these big tech central planners. And you know what's interesting is that we're now at the point where we are arguably in World War III already, unfortunately. And that which protects you the most during these times are technologies that are not just peer-to-peer, but also private by default. So the Crypto Vigilante portfolio will still be outperforming the rest of crypto, because we will still be able to take advantage of us not being an echo chamber. That's the virtue of having a network of analysts that are not afraid to disagree with each other, so that you guys can grow. You guys can actually come to understand things from a very deep perspective, and not just from the perspective that the echo chambers paid for by Silicon Valley and big tech want you to embrace. So in 2025, we did the best because we embraced privacy coins before everyone else. And we will continue to be doing the best. A lot of it's because we have that, because we're human beings that understand this space very well. Analysts with the most experience. But most of all, because we're not trying to really sell you anything, like in crypto itself. You know, our goal is for you guys to understand this space as best as possible. That's really our goal. And in understanding this space as best as possible and coming to really appreciate what matters most in crypto, you end up embracing things, investing in things that are fundamentally sound. And when you do that, you find yourself inevitably making the most profit. Because most people that come into crypto, especially during bull runs, are people that are just led by enthusiasm, people that really don't know. And during those times, it's really hard to know who to trust. And there's so much money going into this space now because we are the number one threat to the banks. We are the number one threat to Silicon Valley. We are the number one threat to big tech. And it's not just any threat. It's like we're the existential threat to their existence, to all of these technologies, because we have the ability to actually to build things that are truly peer-to-peer. We don't have to rely on central planners. And you watching this can actually say, you know what, man, Raf has been talking about this thing. I'm going to go ahead and build something out. And you could very well put a lot of big tech business models out of business, because you will always be able to produce something that is cheaper, faster, more efficient than them when you build that thing, that competitive product on chain. And so, yeah, my goal is to just live in the jungle, just stay living in the jungle. I do not want to go back to a city, given the situation of how things are. I do not ever want to go back to the States or to Europe. But you know, the truth is that the reason I'm speaking like this is because social media is affecting the way I think, and I have to pull back away from it. And I challenge you guys to pull back away from social media. Really do a social media diet. Get away from screens in general, from your phone, from your TV. Really pull back, because as long as the screens are not giving you true peer-to-peer technology, everything that's coming out of these screens from now on is more than likely an attack against you in many different ways. So until we have true peer-to-peer technology, don't count on the internet actually serving your needs and actually informing you well, because nowadays, how do you even know that the video you're watching is actually a real video? You know, like, you know, what's the most insane thing about this whole thing with this war going on is that no one really knows what's real, what's not. Everyone's asking AI, hey, is this image real? Is this video real? Did this really happen? Has this truly been confirmed? And you are susceptible to whatever a few gateways of information tell you. And when people try to preserve data, preserve information, and really share it with one another, there is no actual place on the internet to do it. So when I embraced Bitcoin first, and I'm wearing my Satoshi shirt. Yeah, Satoshi, baby. When I embraced Bitcoin, I saw it as a truth ledger, as an honesty machine, as the book that you can't burn, as that which the Epstein class hates the most, which is to be held accountable. That's why I fell in love with these technologies, first and foremost. At the same time, I fell in love with the anonymous aspect of it all, right? And Satoshi was anonymous as well, right? So I fell in love with and I come from the cypherpunk world. I used to use all those, before Bitcoin came out, I was one of those guys using RetroShare, SourceForge, you know, the friend-to-friend network to communicate with my friends. And I was on tour, and I was just geeking out on all these technologies that gave you privacy. And I think privacy is an incredible tool. Privacy is a tool that protects you. But I want to live in a world where I don't have to be running for my life all the time, right? I want to enjoy an internet that actually serves me, that serves you. And so what I discovered in Bitcoin was the ability to have a new internet, an internet that is truly peer-to-peer, on-chain, open source, an internet that is really for me. And guess what, guys? That's actually being built right now. Every time you hear the word L1 scaling or competitive layer ones, those are networks that are competing in being the next literally that's what it is. They're competing in being the most important peer-to-peer protocol on the internet. And some networks have more capabilities than others. I like Solana a lot. However, in Solana, I can't store data on chain. So Solana has limits that in BSV I don't have, because in BSV I can store data on chain if I want to. So not a necessary thing to do, but it's just that thing alone allows me to think of data itself being capable of being protected by Bitcoin miners, SHA-256. That to me is incredible. That to me is a use case that I think the world is yet to discover. And these are use cases that the powers that be don't want you to know about. These are use cases that, in my opinion, scares them. It scares them because they don't want you to be free and independent without needing them, or their centralized companies. You know, imagine telling Oracle you don't need them anymore because you have Bitcoin miners. You don't need them anymore. And you know, with a Bitcoin miner, you're not being spied on if you're using cryptography on chain, because a lot of people think that you can't use cryptography on Bitcoin. Yes, and the way Satoshi designed it, you can actually encrypt data on chain. Data packets can be encrypted on chain just as much as data packets are encrypted on the internet. And you and I can dispute the ownership of a data packet and no one know what it's inside of the data packet, but you and I, who share the private key. That's it. Share the secret key, no one else has to know. And we can take it to court and say, hey man, he's fighting for that, I'm fighting for the same thing. And it's, to us, we both think it's worth $1 million. So look, there's a lot of amazing use cases that are yet to be discovered in crypto. I have to play the following game, guys. I have to play the game of not understanding Bitcoin in order to go back in time to serve the needs of people understanding Bitcoin right now. And why is that? Because the powers that be don't want you to understand Bitcoin, don't want you to understand the fullness of what these peer-to-peer technologies that come from the blockchain allow you to do. They don't want you to. They don't want you to know these things. That's the last thing that they want, is for you to be free. They want you dependent on them. So yes, Jeffrey Epstein and his friends orchestrated the hijacking of Bitcoin. That is known now. That is not something that Raph made up or some other big blocker made up. No, we were the guys that were like defending Bitcoin, and we knew that we were up against big, like a lot, like we were up against some nefarious entities. We knew that. We knew it was Bilderberg. We knew that. Never in my wildest dreams did I expect it to be Jeffrey Epstein. I was like, when it came out on the files, I'm like, oh shit, like, okay, now it makes sense. And you know what, guys? It makes sense. Because why would the powers that be just allow us to free ourselves from their slavery? And it's, you know, and it's, you have to understand something very important. You know, Bitcoin is not just a way to replace banks and fix money. And Satoshi gave us something bigger than that, in my opinion. He gave us a way to free ourselves from centralized big tech data collecting monsters, centralized monsters. That's what he gave us Bitcoin for. Money is digital now. Over 94% of dollars are digital. They're not paper. We already live in the world of digital cash. We want to free ourselves from the world of centralized digital cash. Anything oriented that comes from fiat, from the debt system of slavery. Whether it be from Wall Street, that leverages off debt, with systems like MicroStrategy or whatever, or systems that are in themselves a continuation of the fiat system, like stable coins. Stable coins is just a mutation of the dollar. That's all it is. You know what the secret recipe of Tether is? It's nothing more than it's a mutated form of a fractional reserve bank. That's all it is. It's not rocket science. That's all it is. So You're trading one system for another that ends up in being a debt-based system of fiat slavery. That's all it is. But it extends much more than that, because in the digital realm, money has to do with information itself. So in the harvesting of information, your money is used against you. And so we have the means right now to free ourselves from those systems of financial slavery. And, when you push people, if Bitcoin would have been successful and it wouldn't have been hijacked, and we would be right now in a post-hyper Bitcoinization world, there probably wouldn't be a reason as much to desire a privacy coin. But because humanity was pushed to that limit where Bitcoin was crippled, and now you have stable coins everywhere and they want to impose digital IDs, you push people to more privacy, which is good for the investor that's prepared for it, but it's just a world that is going to justify more surveillance, because the government is going to be like, well, they're using privacy now, so we're just going to ramp up the surveillance, and it's going to be a cat and mouse game, and it's going to be a pretty, it's in my opinion, it ends up being a pretty horrible game theory, and we all know this, where you have to really, if you want financial freedom, you're going to have to use privacy coins, completely be, as private as possible, while everyone else is getting digital scans of all types. You're going to be susceptible to all types of, invasion of privacy. The surveillance state is there, and it's not going to stop. It will stop for you on a personal level if you know how to use privacy tools. And hopefully those tools work. I mean, not work, but they grow. Hopefully they grow. But that's up to us to educate people. And that's one of my biggest challenges now is figure out how to educate people as much as possible within our community on how to use privacy and secure devices, and, so that they can actually have some freedom in their life. And as much as that plays out, which is unfortunate, right? It's unfortunate that you have to live in a world where you have to hide from surveillance, right? That's pretty sad, right? That's pretty messed up. But there's another game theory that I personally hold to more. This is me. This is not the Crypto Vigilante and all the analysts in general. The game theory that I espouse the most, and that I root for the most, that I champion the most, is the game theory that says, hey, instead of running away from the system of surveillance, let's just outcompete it by providing better tools in the open market that outcompete those systems of surveillance. And I think it's possible. I think it's something that can be done. I think that is exactly what Satoshi gave us, was Bitcoin as a tool that allows us to create peer-to-peer transactions of all types of data, not just money, in giving us a better internet. An internet that is truly secure, peer-to-peer, that takes away power from the equation in a fixed and stable protocol where no central planning group of devs controls the repository or the direction or changes the protocol according to their whim or whatever they call consensus. I don't even know. Dude, that's one. I should do a video on crypto myths, because in that video will piss a lot of people off. But heck, you know what? Let's do it right now. I'll do it right now. Crypto bullshit, I'll call this segment.
It's time for crypto bullshit.
On crypto bullshit, decentralization, the vast majority of cryptocurrencies are composed of a group of central devs that control the protocol if shit hits the fan. And so they sell you the idea of decentralization, but the vast majority are not truly decentralized because they have a centralized group of devs. So it's really hard to tell you guys, or tell myself, like, hey man, get away from the screens because they're bad for you. But we are in a world where these screens will be used against you, and they'll continue to be used against you until we start using tools that are truly peer-to-peer, technologies that are truly peer-to-peer. And when something's digital, if there's a digital innovation, it means it saves you money and time. And so we are in a race on figuring out how to create the fastest, cheapest, most scalable, most abundant resources that truly are there to help you in crypto. And it is a blessing in disguise that I find myself as someone who, like I told you earlier, I feel as if I have to get on a time machine and go back to the past, because what people are discovering now was where people are just now starting to discover things about Bitcoin and about crypto that were being discovered at the time of the hijacking of Bitcoin. So it's almost like going back to that moment in time. And so it's really interesting to me to be there with you guys and to, you know, have the blessing of being ahead of the game, so that when true peer-to-peer innovation comes out, our Crypto Vigilante subscribers will be the first to know not just of its existence, but of the educated opinion about these technologies from analysts that, in my opinion, are the best in the space, who are not an echo chamber, who are completely encouraged to disagree with each other. So you guys get a clear understanding of what the best investments in the future are going forward. So I'm just gonna chill out here. These are, I don't know if you noticed, but this is I'm in a coffee and banana plantation right now. Getting away from them screens, and honestly very hopeful for the future, because I know that we have technologies and technological capacities that they don't have. So I'm gonna go meditate right now. So I look at the coffee. That coffee. Peace, love, anarchy. Now we are dealing with a possible world war. Some will say we are already in a world war. My condolences and prayers go out to everyone suffering under tyranny. It really sucks. I'm really sorry. But it seems as if people are starting to wake up regarding crypto more and more each day. And so it's in the description right here to read, where we give our secret sauce and what we teach our subscribers, because things are just that bad. You know, everyone needs this information. People need to know about sound cryptocurrencies that are actually private by default, and to know how to properly use crypto.